Who killed him? The $100 million ghost. The world has two sides. The immaculate side, where fortunes are inherited and power is absolute, where champagne flows in crystal flutes and decisions are made in marble boardrooms. And the shadows, where men count loose change with calloused fingers and sleep in the rain, where survival is measured in degrees of cold and warmth comes only from the body heat of loyal dogs. Elias Vance was a ghost of the second world, a man with nothing, living rough behind an abandoned church with only 2 dogs and a kind heart. But he had not always been invisible. Once, decades ago, he had been someone else entirely. A promising student, a young man with dreams, a son who believed his mother when she said his father was just a phantom who disappeared into the night. Life had stripped him down, layer by layer, until only the essential remained: compassion, dignity, and an unshakable moral core that no amount of hardship could erode. Until the day a quiet lawyer showed up with a simple truth. Elias was heir to $100 million. But money is poison, especially to those who have never earned it, and the family that deserved nothing decided that the man who owned everything deserved to die. They planned the perfect crime with the arrogance of people who had never faced real consequences. They lured someone into the dark with calculated precision. They thought they succeeded, celebrating with expensive champagne and relief-filled sighs. But when you are already a ghost, how do you kill what is not truly there? The question is not who planned the ultimate betrayal. The question is, who did they bury in that rain-soaked alley? And what happens when the dead man walks back into the light, saved by the one family member who still possessed a conscience, carrying the weight of an innocent friend's murder and the cold fury of justice delayed? Elias Vance, known simply as Eli to the handful of people who still saw him as human, did not measure his life in dollars or achievements. He measured it in degrees. The degree of the cold when the winter wind cut through the canvas of his makeshift shelter behind St. Michael's Church, and the degree of warmth he felt when his 2 loyal mutts, Shadow and Rust, curled up beside him on the hardest nights. His world was the underbelly of Seattle, a complex mosaic of kindness and cruelty found only in the alleyways where society's forgotten population carved out existence. He knew every rhythm of the city like a symphony conductor knows his orchestra. He was a man stripped down to his essential humanity through years of loss, addiction overcome, and redemption earned in the currency of survival. He was 50 years old, ruggedly built from years of harsh living, with a thick, graying beard that had once been dark brown and kind, intelligent eyes that seemed to hold the quiet sadness of the world, but also an unexpected spark of humor. Those eyes had seen too much, but had never learned to hate. He was a survivor who had maintained his soul when it would have been easier to lose it. On a cold Tuesday morning in late October, with frost clinging to the church's broken windows, Eli was sharing a stale donut with his best friend, a fellow rough sleeper named Leo. Leo was older, perhaps 65, with a weathered face that looked like carved driftwood and hands that trembled from decades of hard living. But Leo had a gentle laugh that could warm the coldest morning, and he possessed a philosopher's wisdom earned not from books, but from observing humanity at its rawest. "You know what I think, Eli?" Leo said, breaking off a piece of donut for himself. "I think we are the freest men in this whole damn city. No mortgages, no bosses, no family expecting us to be something we are not. Just us and the sky." Eli smiled softly. "That is one way to look at chains, Leo. Though I would trade some of this freedom for a warm bed and a hot meal that did not come from a dumpster." But would you trade your soul for it?" Leo replied, his eyes twinkling. "That is the real question, my friend." They did not know it then, but that philosophical question would become terrifyingly relevant within hours. The anomaly arrived at precisely 10:47 in the morning. It was a black gleaming SUV, impossibly clean, its paint job reflecting the gray Seattle sky like a dark mirror. The vehicle pulled up precisely at the curb next to the church's peeling back wall, and the contrast was startling, almost obscene. Shadow, the older of Eli's 2 dogs, a German shepherd mix with graying muzzle and wise eyes, growled low in his throat. Rust, younger and more nervous, a terrier mutt with reddish-brown fur, pressed closer to Eli's leg. A man in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Eli's entire year of survival stepped out carefully, as if afraid the ground itself might contaminate him. He carried a leather briefcase that gleamed with newness, and his shoes, Italian, polished to a mirror shine, looked absurdly out of place on the cracked, stained pavement. "Excuse me," he said, his voice hesitant, cultured, betraying an Ivy League education. "I am searching for a man named Elias Vance, also known as Eli. I was told he resides in this area." Eli, chewing slowly on the donut, watched the man with the calm assessment of someone who had learned to read people for survival. Leo, always wary of authority figures in expensive suits, tensed beside him, ready to bolt if necessary. "You found him," Eli said, his voice a low, gravelly baritone roughened by years of cold nights. He did not move from his spot on the overturned milk crate that served as his morning throne. The lawyer, for that is clearly what he was, visibly swallowed, his Adam's apple bobbing nervously. He opened the briefcase with a nervous click that echoed in the quiet alley. "Mr. Vance," the lawyer began, his voice taking on a formal, clearly rehearsed cadence. "My name is Gregory Thompson, senior partner at Thompson & Associates. I represented the estate of Robert Sterling. I have been instructed by the terms of his last will and testament to deliver a message of the utmost confidentiality and importance to you personally. Robert Sterling." The name landed like a stone thrown into still water, sending ripples through Eli's consciousness. He had no living family. His mother, God rest her soul, had died 15 years ago in a county hospital. Her last words a whispered apology for the father who was never there. "Look, friend," Eli said carefully, "I do not need a sermon and I do not need an intervention. We are fine here. Whatever you are selling, I am not buying. I am not selling anything, Mr. Vance," Thompson said, and something in his voice made Eli pay closer attention. "Robert Sterling passed away peacefully 2 weeks ago in his estate on Puget Sound. He was a titan of industry. The Sterling Group, shipping, real estate, energy, a fortune built over 50 years. Thompson took a deep breath. "Mr. Vance, I need you to understand something. Robert Sterling had 6 legitimate children from his marriage, 6 adult heirs who expected to inherit his empire. But in his final will, executed with perfect legal clarity 3 months before his death, Robert Sterling bequeathed his entire estate, every asset, every share, every property, his entire fortune, to you, to Elias Vance, his biological son from a relationship that predated his marriage." The world seemed to tilt slightly. Eli stared at the lawyer, searching his face for any hint of a cruel joke. But there was none of that in Thompson's face, only strained professional duty mixed with something that looked disturbingly like pity. "My mother always said my father was a phantom," Eli muttered, his voice distant as memories surfaced unbidden. "A wealthy tourist who came through her small town, made promises, left her pregnant, and disappeared like smoke. She never told me his name, said it did not matter because he was already gone." "He left a great deal, Mr. Vance," Thompson said. "The total value of the Sterling estate after all legal fees, outstanding debts, and asset liquidation processes is estimated at $100 million, plus controlling shares in the Sterling Group, which employs over 2,000 people across the Pacific Northwest. $100 million. The number was so large it became abstract, meaningless." Eli looked at the lawyer with his expensive suit. He looked at the sleek SUV idling expensively at the curb. He looked at the half-eaten donut in his hand, probably worth 50 cents. He looked at Leo, whose worried, weathered face seemed to be asking a silent question. "What is $100 million to men like us?" Eli slowly stood up, his joints protesting slightly. 50 years of hard living left marks on the body. He brushed the dirt and crumbs from his faded, worn coat. "Well," he said, his voice surprisingly steady despite the earthquake happening inside his chest. "That is a bit of a problem, is it not, Mr. Thompson?" The lawyer nodded grimly. "It is indeed a very serious problem, Mr. Vance, because Robert Sterling's 6 other adult children have already been informed of the contents of the will. They have retained extremely expensive legal counsel. They are preparing a massive lawsuit contesting the will's validity. And Mr. Vance?" Thompson stepped closer, lowering his voice to an urgent whisper. "I need to get you somewhere safe, immediately, right now, because you are no longer invisible. You are now the most valuable and most vulnerable target in the entire state of Washington. Eli looked past the lawyer toward the shining, impossible side of the world he had abandoned decades ago. He did not know it yet, but the moment Thompson spoke that number, Eli had stopped being a ghost in the machinery of society. He had become a target, and in the gleaming towers and gated estates across the city, 6 people who had never worked an honest day in their lives were learning that their comfortable, entitled existence had just been ripped away by a homeless man they never knew existed. The rage they would feel would not just be about money. It would be about shame, about ego, about the profound insult of being replaced by someone they would consider beneath contempt. To understand the scale of the threat now facing Eli, one had to understand not just the Sterling dynasty, but the twisted psychology that wealth without purpose creates in human beings. Robert Sterling was a titan, but he was also a cautionary tale. Born in 1943 to working-class parents in rural Oregon, he had built his fortune through a combination of ruthless intelligence, perfect timing, and an almost pathological inability to form genuine human connections. He did not build a family. He cultivated dependence, investments that consistently showed negative returns. His sprawling estate on the shores of Puget Sound was less a home and more a monument to his success. 10,000 square feet of marble, glass, and cold perfection. It was populated by 6 adult children, all of whom had been utterly, completely, and intentionally disinherited in his final act of cold vengeance. Robert Sterling had grown to despise his legitimate heirs with a passion that bordered on obsession. His 6 children were, by his own meticulous calculation, a total loss on investment. They were parasites with law degrees and expensive tastes. Richard Sterling, the oldest son at 55, was perhaps the most infuriating to his father. Richard had been given every advantage, yet managed to fail spectacularly at everything he touched. He ran a series of perpetually failing venture capital firms that existed primarily to lose his father's money. What made Richard particularly insufferable was his arrogance. He was a bully who believed the world owed him respect simply because of his last name. Victoria Sterling, 48, was the daughter who broke Robert's heart in a different way. She had been his favorite once, a bright girl who showed early promise. But she had discovered that being Robert Sterling's daughter was itself a currency she could spend endlessly without earning. She had 3 failed marriages, each ending with massive settlements that Robert ultimately funded. The other 4 children, Marcus, Diane, Christopher, and Elizabeth, were variations on the same dismal theme. Marcus was a lawyer who had never practiced law. Diane was an artist who had never sold a piece. Christopher fancied himself an investor, spending his days watching his father's money grow while contributing nothing but opinions. Elizabeth had devoted her life to wellness retreats and spiritual journeys, all funded by the man she called emotionally unavailable. Not one of them had ever asked Robert how his day was. Not one had ever offered genuine help when he needed it. They only ever called to ask for liquidity, assistance, or an adjustment to the annual stipend. In the final months before his death, Robert Sterling experienced something that would reshape his legacy entirely. Genuine loneliness mixed with profound regret. He had received a diagnosis of pancreatic cancer, inoperable, terminal, perhaps 6 months remaining. As his body weakened and his mind remained sharp, Robert began to examine his life with cold, analytical precision, and he did not like what he saw. He was 81 years old. He had built a fortune that would last generations, and he was going to die utterly alone, unloved by the people who should have cared most. He gathered his children for what he believed would be important family discussions about his illness. Instead, every gathering devolved into barely concealed discussions about the inheritance timeline. One particular evening, Robert attempted to connect with his children one final time. His body was frail, his voice weak, but his mind was devastatingly clear. "Richard," Robert said, his voice barely above a whisper, "my physician is recommending a full-time nurse for overnight care. I would appreciate your help selecting someone competent, someone kind." Richard, sitting across from him, did not even look up from his phone. "A night nurse, Dad? Seriously? That is what the trust administrators are for? Just call the agency. Do not bother me with staff management." The rejection was casual, thoughtless, complete. Robert tried his daughter next. "Victoria, darling, I'm having trouble with my correspondence. My vision is failing. Would you help me organize my personal papers?" Victoria sighed dramatically, examining her manicured nails. "Dad, honey, I have a charity gala tomorrow night. Just hire a paralegal from your legal team. I cannot be expected to do clerical work. The casual cruelty of it struck Robert with the force of a physical blow. He tried each of his children in turn, asking for small kindnesses, simple gestures that would cost nothing but time and attention. Every single one of them refused, politely, casually, with elaborate excuses that boiled down to the same brutal truth. They could not be bothered. Not a single child offered a moment of their time. Not a single child offered genuine care in his final days. That night, alone in his vast estate, Robert Sterling made a decision that would destroy his family and redeem his soul. He called his lawyer, Gregory Thompson, at 2 a.m. "Thompson," Robert said, "I want to execute a new will. Immediately. Tonight. I am disinheriting all 6 of my children. Every single one. Completely. I want them to get nothing. Not a cent." Thompson arrived 53 minutes later with 2 witnesses and a recorder. Over the next 3 hours, Robert Sterling executed the most devastating will Thompson had ever witnessed. But who was Elias Vance? How did Robert even know about him? The answer lay in a secret Robert had carried for 51 years. In 1972, Robert Sterling was a young, ambitious businessman traveling through rural Oregon. He was already wealthy, already married, already starting a family. In a small town, he met a young woman named Sarah Vance, a waitress at a local diner, 23 years old, beautiful in an uncomplicated way. He stayed in that town for 3 weeks. He made promises he never intended to keep, and when he left, Sarah was pregnant with his child. Robert knew. She had written him a letter telling him about the pregnancy. He had read it once, felt a momentary panic, and then filed it away. He sent her $10,000 with a lawyer's letter, making clear that this was final payment, that no further contact should be attempted. He never thought about Sarah Vance again, or their son. For 49 years, Elias existed only as a footnote in Robert's conscience, easily ignored, conveniently forgotten, until the cancer diagnosis forced Robert to confront every choice, every cruelty, every failure of his life. Hiring a private investigator was easy. The investigator returned with a report that Robert read with growing horror and, strangely, something like pride. Elias Vance had lived a hard life. Abandoned by his father, raised by a single mother who worked 3 jobs, he had nevertheless managed to earn a scholarship to college. But tragedy struck early. His mother developed cancer when Eli was 22, and he had dropped out to care for her. After her death, he spiraled into addiction, lost years to alcohol and opioids, hit bottom hard. But Eli had climbed back out, sober for 15 years, living rough but living with dignity, known in Seattle's homeless community as someone who helped others, who shared what little he had, who protected the vulnerable, who maintained his humanity in circumstances that would have destroyed most people's souls. The investigators' report included testimonials from social workers, from other homeless individuals. One social worker wrote, "Elias Vance is the kind of man I wish ran the world. He has nothing, but he gives everything. He has every reason to be bitter, but he chooses kindness. He is proof that character has nothing to do with wealth." Robert read that line 17 times. Here was his biological son, a man he had abandoned, who had become a better human being than any of Robert's legitimate, privileged children. Eli had faced real hardship and become compassionate. Robert's children had faced only comfort and become monsters. In that moment, Robert Sterling understood his final act of redemption. He would give everything to the son he abandoned, not as charity, not as guilt, but as recognition of actual human worth. The reading of the will was a scene of escalating horror. The 6 Sterling children had arrived at the estate dressed for a funeral that felt more like a party. Richard wore an expensive suit that probably cost $5,000. Victoria wore black pearls. They expected the division of spoils. Thompson began reading the will, working through standard legal language. Then Thompson reached the final clause. "And therefore I, Robert Sterling, being of sound mind and legal capacity, do hereby bequeath my entire estate to my biological son, Elias Jonathan Vance, born August 15, 1973, to Sarah Vance of Brookings, Oregon, to my legal children, Richard, Victoria, Marcus, Diane, Christopher, and Elizabeth, I leave $1 each, as acknowledgement that they have not been forgotten, but have been found unworthy." The silence that followed was the kind that precedes earthquakes. Then Richard exploded. "What? This is fraud. He is giving everything to some homeless piece of trash?" Thompson continued reading. The deceased has included a personal letter. To my 6 legal children, you are receiving exactly what you earned, nothing. You have spent your lives as parasites consuming my fortune while contributing nothing of value. You never worked. You never struggled. You never learned the value of anything. Elias Vance, my biological son whom I abandoned 50 years ago, has lived the life I should have taught you to respect. He has known poverty, addiction, recovery, and genuine human struggle. And despite having every reason to become bitter, he became kind, generous, and honorable. He is what you should have been, and so he will receive what you believed you deserved. Live the rest of your lives knowing that a homeless man you would have stepped over in the street was more worthy of my legacy than any of you. You have been weighed, measured, and found lacking. Robert Sterling. The room erupted in chaos. Victoria collapsed into tears of fury and shame. Richard overturned his chair, screaming threats. The other 4 siblings dissolved into panic and rage. But beneath the chaos, something darker was forming. This was not just about losing money. This was about public humiliation on a scale none of them had ever experienced. Richard and Victoria, the 2 most arrogant and the 2 most desperate, met privately that very night, and they began to plan murder. The rage that consumed Richard and Victoria was not merely about losing the inheritance. It was about the profound, soul-crushing humiliation delivered by their dead father. They were publicly declared worthless, replaced by a man who lived in the gutter. Richard called a private meeting with Victoria in the deep shadows of the Sterling wine cellar. "We need to think strategically," Richard hissed, pacing between the racks of vintage wine. "Lawsuits will take years. Thompson made it clear the will is airtight. We can challenge, but we will not win." "Then what?" Victoria replied. "Unless he does not survive those 90 days," Richard said quietly, letting the words hang in the air like poison gas. Victoria looked up sharply. "You are talking about murder." "I am talking about problem solving," Richard corrected. "He is a homeless man. Homeless people die every day in this city. If he dies before the trust executes, the will becomes void." They worked out the details over the next hour. They would not involve their 4 other siblings. Marcus, Diane, Christopher, and Elizabeth were too weak, too emotional, too likely to crack under pressure. This would be Richard and Victoria's secret alone. Richard would contact a fixer using an encrypted burner phone. Victoria would prepare the money, $25,000 in unmarked bills, withdrawn in small increments to avoid suspicion. The target, Elias Vance, the homeless man sleeping behind St. Michael's Church. The method, quick, violent, anonymous. They hired their operative through Richard's discreet contact named Malcolm. Malcolm took their specifications and promised results within 10 days. The actual operative was a man named Frankie DeLuca, a low-level thug with a criminal record. He was 42 years old, a failed career criminal desperate for money. Malcolm met Frankie in a grimy bar. "Simple job," Malcolm said, sliding an envelope across the table. Inside was $5,000 cash and a photograph of Eli. "That is your target. Homeless guy, lives behind St. Michael's. You take him out, make it look random, do it right, you get another 20 grand. Frankie studied the photo. "When?" "Thursday night. Late. After midnight." Meanwhile, Richard and Victoria executed their alibi with meticulous precision. The Thursday night hospital charity gala was Seattle's social event of the season. They arrived separately, but were photographed together extensively, creating a documentary record of their presence 50 miles from St. Michael's Church. Perfect alibis while their hired killer worked in the dark. But Richard's arrogance had blinded him to a fundamental truth. When you do not see people as human, you stop noticing the details that define them as individuals. That Thursday night, a rare, bone-chilling rain was falling over Seattle. Eli was not at St. Michael's Church. Earlier that day, his friend Marcus Soup Johnson had tipped him off to a police sweep planned for the church area. "They are clearing out the whole zone tonight, Eli. You need to move your dog somewhere safe." So that evening, Eli had taken Shadow and Russ to a temporary shelter on the outskirts of the city. He planned to stay 2 nights, then return to his usual spot. But his friend Leo had stayed behind. Leo had spent that evening doing a kindness for his friend. He had found a salvaged piece of canvas and spent hours carefully repairing Eli's worn-out coat, adding the canvas patch with surprising skill. When the rain started falling heavily around 11 at night, Leo made a decision. Rather than walk back to his own spot, he would stay in Eli's usual place for the night. The heating vent kept this particular corner warmer than most spots. Leo settled into Eli's space, covering himself with Eli's thick canvas blanket, pulling Eli's knitted beanie over his head. He curled up in the exact spot where Eli usually slept. Within 20 minutes, exhausted from his repair work, Leo fell into deep sleep. He looked from behind, exactly like Eli. Same build, same gray streaked beard, same worn coat with new canvas patch, same beanie. In the darkness, in the rain, to someone who had only seen a grainy photograph, Leo was indistinguishable from Elias Vance. Frankie DeLuca arrived at 1:37 in the morning, the rain soaking through his cheap jacket. He had watched the area for an hour, confirming the police sweep had cleared most people out. Perfect conditions, no witnesses. He found the target location easily, and there, exactly as promised, was a man matching the photograph, bearded, wearing a worn coat with a canvas patch, sleeping alone under a blanket near the heating vent. Frankie did not hesitate. He was being paid $25,000 to make a problem disappear. He approached quickly, quietly. The sleeping man did not stir. Frankie's method was brutal and efficient. A heavy crowbar, 2 vicious strikes to the head. Quick, violent, irreversible. The man's body jerked once, then went still, blood mixing with rainwater on the concrete. Frankie worked fast, stripping the body of identifying items. He rifled through the man's pockets, finding nothing of value except a hand-carved wooden pipe that Frankie tossed aside carelessly. The entire encounter lasted less than 90 seconds. Frankie disappeared back into the relentless rain, believing he had just killed Elias Vance. He felt nothing. No guilt, no horror, no remorse. Just the mercenary satisfaction of a job completed. Meanwhile, 3 miles away, Eli was lying in a narrow cot at the church shelter, unable to sleep despite being warm and dry. Something felt wrong. At 6:15 in the morning, Eli returned to St. Michael's Church to check if the police sweep had finished. As he approached the church's back corner, Shadow began to whine, a high-pitched, distressed sound. Rust started barking frantically. Eli's heart began to pound. Something was wrong. He turned the corner and saw the blood first. Dark stains on wet concrete. Too much blood. Then he saw the body, crumpled against the wall. Eli ran forward. The body was in his spot, wearing his coat style, lying in his position. He knelt in the puddles, his hands shaking as he gently turned the body over. Leo's face, already pale with death, looked almost peaceful. His eyes were closed. The massive trauma to his skull was obvious, but it was the hand-carved wooden pipe, lying broken on the concrete 3 feet away, that confirmed the victim's identity. Eli had made that pipe for Leo 4 years ago. Leo treasured it, never went anywhere without it. Eli knelt in the rain, his friend's body growing cold beneath his hands, and understood with terrible, perfect clarity what had happened. They had come for him. The Sterling family had sent someone to kill him for the inheritance. But in their arrogance, in their contempt for homeless people as interchangeable and invisible, they had killed the wrong man. Leo, kind, philosophical Leo, who had died fixing Eli's coat as an act of friendship, had been murdered because he looked like Eli from behind in the dark. Eli stayed kneeling in the rain, his tears mixing with the downpour, his grief compounded by guilt and fury. Leo had died for money Eli had never asked for, murdered by people Eli had never met. But beneath the grief, something harder was forming, something cold and calculating and absolutely determined. They thought they had killed him. They thought they had won. Eli stood slowly, rain streaming down his face, and made a promise to his friend's body. I am going to make them pay, Leo. Every single one of them. Not for the money, for you. The ghost of Elias Vance had just been born, and he was coming for vengeance. But as Eli stood over Leo's body, something unexpected happened. A car pulled up to the alley entrance, headlights cutting through the rain and dawn mist. Eli tensed, ready to run. Shadow and Rust growled protectively. A young man stepped out of the car, perhaps 28 years old, well-dressed but not ostentatiously so. He had the Sterling features, the same sharp jawline, but his eyes held something different. Genuine emotion, fear, urgency. Please, the young man said, his hands raised in a peaceful gesture. Please do not run. I am Daniel Sterling, Robert Sterling's grandson, Richard Sterling's son, and I am here to save your life. Eli stared at him, confused, suspicious. You are Richard's son? Daniel nodded, his face twisted with shame and determination. Yes, and I know what my father and my Aunt Victoria have done. I know they hired someone to kill you. I have been trying to find you for 3 days, ever since I overheard them celebrating your supposed death." Eli looked down at Leo's body. "They killed my friend. They thought he was me." Daniel's face went pale as he saw the body for the first time. Oh God, I am so sorry. I tried to warn you. I tried to stop this, but I did not know where you were staying. And by the time I figured it out, why would you help me?" Eli asked, his voice hard. "I am the reason your father lost his inheritance. I am the reason your family is being humiliated." Daniel shook his head violently. "No, my father did that himself. My grandfather did not leave you that fortune randomly. He left it to you because you earned it through how you lived your life. And he left it to punish my father, my aunt, and the others because they are parasites. I have known that my whole life." He stepped closer, urgent. "My grandfather called me 2 weeks before he died. It was his final wish, his final request. He told me about you. He told me the whole truth. He made me promise if anything happened to you, that I would protect you, that I would help you get justice. Because he knew his other children would try something like this." "Why would you go against your own father?" Eli asked, still skeptical. "Because he is a murderer," Daniel said flatly. "Because I was raised by a man who taught me that money matters more than morality. And I spent my whole life watching him destroy everything good around him. My grandfather saw that. In his final days, he reached out to me. He said I was the only one in the family who still had a soul. He made me promise to protect you if his other children tried to harm you." Daniel pulled out his phone. "I have been recording everything. My father and Victoria, they were not careful around me. They think I am weak, that I am loyal to them. But I recorded their planning sessions. I recorded them discussing the murder. I recorded them celebrating when they thought you were dead. I have evidence of everything." Eli looked at this young man, Robert Sterling's grandson, Richard Sterling's son, standing in the rain offering salvation. It felt surreal, impossible, like a dream. "Why should I trust you?" Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "Because my grandfather's last words to me were, 'Daniel, I failed as a father, but maybe I can save one good man before I die. Elias Vance is worth more than all my other children combined. If they try to hurt him, you protect him. You be the Sterling I should have raised. Please." It was his dying wish, and I promised him. Eli felt something crack inside his chest. Robert Sterling, the father who had abandoned him, had still tried, in his final days, to protect him. "What do we do?" Eli asked quietly. Daniel spoke quickly, urgently. "First, we need to call the police, report this murder. But we do it carefully, strategically. I have a lawyer, someone I trust completely, someone who has no connection to the Sterling family fortune. Her name is Catherine Chen, a former FBI agent. We get you somewhere safe, we document everything, and we build a case that will destroy my father and Victoria. But Eli," Daniel continued, his voice breaking, "I need you to understand something. When this comes out, when the truth is revealed, my father will go to prison. My aunt will go to prison. The Sterling name will be destroyed. And I am asking you to do this knowing that I am betraying my own family." "They are not your family," Eli said quietly. "Your grandfather understood that. Family is not blood. Family is the people who protect you, who care for you, who choose to do right even when it costs them everything. Your grandfather chose you to be that person, and you are honoring that choice." Over the next 3 weeks, with Daniel's help and Catherine Chen's investigative brilliance, the evidence against Richard and Victoria Sterling mounted into an insurmountable case. Daniel provided recordings of his father and aunt planning the murder, celebrating the supposed success, discussing how to ensure the estate would revert to them. His testimony was devastating because he was family, because he had no ulterior motive, because he was willing to sacrifice everything for truth. Catherine Chen tracked down Frankie DeLuca, found Malcolm the Fixer, documented the money trail from Victoria's ATM withdrawals. She built a case so airtight that even the Sterling family's expensive lawyers could not dismantle it. During this time, Eli stayed in a safe house arranged by Daniel and Chen. He was officially listed as a protected witness. The Sterling family and the public still believed Elias Vance was dead, that the body found behind the church was the homeless heir. The 4 other Sterling children, Marcus, Diane, Christopher, and Elizabeth, knew nothing of the murder conspiracy. They were horrified when the truth emerged. They had been selfish, entitled, lazy, but they were not murderers. They had not participated in Richard and Victoria's plot. The arrest of Richard and Victoria Sterling made national headlines. The evidence was overwhelming. Daniel's recordings, Frankie's confession, Malcolm's testimony. financial records, phone records. The trial lasted 3 months. Eli testified, telling Leo's story, describing a man who had died simply for being kind to a friend, for being in the wrong place at the wrong time, for being invisible to people who saw homeless lives as disposable. Daniel testified against his own father, his voice steady despite tears streaming down his face. He described overhearing the planning, the celebration, the complete lack of remorse. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Richard Sterling, guilty of conspiracy to commit murder, solicitation of murder, sentenced to 35 years in federal prison. Victoria Sterling, guilty of conspiracy to commit murder, accessory to murder, sentenced to 30 years in federal prison. Frankie DeLuca, guilty of first-degree murder, life in prison without possibility of parole. After the verdict, after justice had been served, there remained one final question. What would Elias Vance do with the $100 million inheritance? The legal transfer had been held in probate during the trial. Now, with Richard and Victoria convicted, with the threat eliminated, the estate could finally be transferred to its rightful heir. Catherine Chen arranged a private meeting in her office. Present were Eli, Daniel Sterling, Gregory Thompson, the original lawyer, and Chen herself. Mr. Vance, Thompson said formally, the estate is ready for transfer. All legal obstacles have been removed. The $100 million plus controlling interest in the Sterling Group is yours. We just need your signature on these documents. Eli looked at the papers spread across the table. A fortune, a life-changing amount of money, security, comfort, power. He thought about the cold nights behind the church. He thought about Leo, who had died for this money. He thought about Robert Sterling, a man who had built an empire but destroyed a family, who had recognized his failure too late. He thought about shadow and rust, about philosophy over stale donuts, about kindness in a cruel world. And Eli made his choice. I do not want it, Eli said quietly. The room went silent. Thompson looked confused. Mr. Vance, I am not sure you understand. This is $100 million. This could change your entire life. You would never have to sleep outside again. You could have anything you wanted. I understand perfectly, Eli replied, his voice calm but firm. And that is exactly why I do not want it. Money did not make Robert Sterling happy. It did not make his children better people. It made them worse. It made them so greedy, so entitled, that 2 of them committed murder for it. Leo died because of this money. He died because wealthy people saw homeless lives as disposable, as obstacles to their greed. If I take this money, Leo's death means I profited from his murder, and I will not do that. But Mr. Vance, Chen interjected gently, you could use this money for good. You could help thousands of people. Eli nodded. Exactly. Which is why I am donating the entire estate to charity. The room erupted in shocked responses, but Eli raised his hand for silence. I want $50 million to go to the Seattle Children's Charity for the Homeless and Displaced, Eli continued. I want them to build a shelter, a real one, with dignity and respect. Private rooms, not warehouses. A place that allows pets, because I know for many street people their dogs are their only family. Medical care, addiction services, job training, and I want it named after Leo Patterson, so his name is remembered, so his life mattered. Thompson was scribbling notes frantically, and the other $50 million? Split it among homeless services, addiction recovery programs, and scholarships for students from low-income families. People like my mother, who worked 3 jobs and still could not afford to give me the life she wanted for me. People like the version of me who lost everything and had to rebuild from nothing. Daniel Sterling spoke up, his voice thick with emotion. My grandfather would be proud. This is exactly what he hoped you would do. Not spend it on yourself. Use it to prove that character matters more than wealth. Chen smiled. Mr. Vance, you are giving away a fortune. Eli shook his head. No, I am giving away money. Fortune is what I already have. I have shadow and rust. I have my sobriety. I have my dignity. I have the memory of Leo and all the good people I have known on the streets who chose kindness when the world offered only cruelty. That is fortune. The money is just paper. Over the next 6 months, the transformation was remarkable. The Leo Patterson Memorial Center was built with state-of-the-art facilities. It could house 200 people in private rooms with dignity and respect. The other charitable donations funded programs across Seattle that would help thousands. The Sterling Group's controlling shares were transferred to a charitable trust, managed by an independent board, ensuring the company would continue employing thousands while its profits funded social programs. And Elias Vance? He returned to a simple life. He did accept a modest amount from Daniel Sterling's personal funds, enough to rent a small apartment, nothing ostentatious, enough to care for Shadow and Rust in their old age, enough to live with basic dignity, but he continued to volunteer at the Leo Patterson Memorial Center. He continued to know every person by name, to treat everyone with respect, to prove every day that human worth has nothing to do with bank accounts. 1 year later, Eli stood at the opening ceremony of the Leo Patterson Memorial Center. The center was filled with formerly homeless individuals who would be its first residents. Eli gave a speech that was covered by every major news outlet. My friend Leo Patterson was murdered because wealthy people saw homeless lives as disposable, Eli said, his voice strong. He was killed not for who he was, but for who they thought he was, me. But Leo was not disposable. He was a philosopher, a friend, a man who chose kindness when the world gave him every reason to choose bitterness. He fixed my coat on the night he died because that is who he was. Generous, human, valuable. The Sterling children thought they could kill me and reclaim their inheritance. But they did not understand something fundamental. You cannot put a price on human life. You cannot measure worth in dollars. And when you try, when you kill for money, you lose everything that makes you human. My father, Robert Sterling, understood this too late. He built an empire but destroyed a family. But in his final act, he tried to make it right. He reached out to his grandson Daniel, made him promise to protect me, to ensure that his fortune would finally do something meaningful. This center is not named after me. It is named after Leo Patterson, the man who died in my place, because his life mattered. Every life here matters. Every person sleeping rough tonight matters. And if we cannot understand that fundamental truth, all the money in the world means nothing. The applause was thunderous. Eli saw tears in the audience. He saw Daniel Sterling, who had sacrificed his relationship with his family to do what was right. He saw Catherine Chen, who had fought for justice. He saw formerly homeless individuals who were being given a second chance. After the ceremony, Daniel approached Eli. "Thank you," Daniel said quietly, "for honoring my grandfather's final wish, for proving that he was right about you." Eli smiled. "Thank you for being brave enough to betray your father for truth. That took more courage than anything I have ever done." Daniel hesitated. "I have to ask, do you regret giving away the money? Do you ever wish you had kept it?" Eli smiled. "Not for a second. I regret nothing. Money did not save Robert Sterling. It did not make his children happy. It destroyed them. It made Richard and Victoria so consumed by greed that they committed murder. It made the others so lazy and entitled that they never built anything of their own. I had nothing and I was free. They had everything, and they were prisoners of their own greed and laziness." Daniel nodded slowly. "My grandfather wrote something in his final journal entry. He said, 'I spent my life building a fortune and destroying a family. My greatest achievement will be giving that fortune to the one man who does not need it to prove his worth.'" Eli looked out the window at the residents arriving at the center, being greeted with warmth and respect. That is the truth that Robert Sterling learned too late. The truth that his children never learned. The truth that cost Leo his life. Human worth cannot be measured in dollars. Character is not purchased with inheritance. And families are destroyed not by poverty, but by greed, entitlement, and the laziness that comes from never having to earn anything. Richard and Victoria thought they deserved their father's fortune simply for existing. They never worked for it. They never appreciated it. And when it was taken away, they proved exactly why they never deserved it in the first place. They became murderers. The 4 other siblings were not killers, but they were equally responsible for their father's disgust. They were parasites, living off Robert's work while contributing nothing, building nothing, creating nothing of value. Greed and laziness destroyed the Sterling family long before the will was read. The inheritance just exposed what was already rotten beneath the surface. And Leo Patterson, an innocent man who chose kindness over bitterness, who fixed a friend's coat on a cold night, paid the price for that family's moral bankruptcy. This is the lesson. Wealth without character is poison. Inheritance without effort breeds entitlement. And greed, combined with laziness, will destroy not just individuals, but entire families. Robert Sterling spent 50 years learning this truth. Eli Vance already knew it, because he had lived it on the streets where survival depends on character, not currency. And in the end, The homeless man proved worthier than the heirs, the abandoned son more honorable than the legitimate children, and the ghost more alive than those who thought they owned the world. And there you have it. The story of Elias Vance, the $100 million ghost who proved that greed and laziness can destroy even the wealthiest families. Robert Sterling's legitimate children had everything handed to them, but they became parasites, too lazy to work, too greedy to appreciate what they had, and in Richard and Victoria's case, too arrogant to see that murder would only expose their true worthlessness. Leo Patterson died because of their greed, but his death was not meaningless. Through Eli's courage and Daniel's conscience, justice was served, and Leo's name now stands for dignity, compassion, and the fundamental truth that every human life matters. This story shows us that wealth does not define worth, character does, and families are destroyed not by lack of money but by abundance of greed and laziness that money can create. If this story moved you, if it made you think about what really matters in life, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. Hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and join our community where we explore stories that challenge how we think about success, worth, and humanity. And before you go, leave a comment below. Who do you think was the biggest villain in this story? Was it Richard Sterling, who planned his brother's murder? Victoria Sterling, who helped finance it? Or was it Robert Sterling himself, who created the monsters his children became by giving them everything without teaching them the value of anything? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if you enjoyed this story, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Remember, greed and laziness destroy families. Character and compassion build them. Choose wisely how you live your life and what values you pass on to those who come after you. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more powerful stories, and I will see you in the next one. The Destructive Secret.